Oh man, where do I start this one? Now, I'm going to attempt to navigate a minefield, so hear me out for a second. We have legalized bribery in the United States of America, and it is absolutely destroying the country. Now, before I start, let me preface this video by saying I'm not your enemy and you're not my enemy. I have nothing against you. I don't care if you're white, black, Asian, Mexican, Middle Eastern, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever the fuck. You are not my enemy. My enemy is the top 1%, the elites that have stolen all the wealth from the bottom 99% of the working class. My enemy is the corporations that have bought all of our politicians, so much so to where they do not represent you no matter what party you are affiliated with. My enemy is the military industrial complex that our politicians are also beholden to, that wants to keep doing endless war. So we go into these other countries and we jack their natural resources, we kill their leaders, and we do drone strikes that kill 90% civilian targets. Now, look, I know you don't want to hear this. I know people disengage from the political ecosystem because they know how volatile it is. You know, all these guys are slimy ass liars. But the problem is, when you disengage from the political ecosystem, you basically give these politicians free reign to screw you. Our country is going to shit. Our healthcare system is abysmal. And the overall intelligence level of the country has just gone down. But what if I told you our current ecosystem is actually designed that way? Well, let me elaborate. Now, let's start with healthcare. We are one of the only major nations that don't have one form or another of a universal healthcare system. And don't listen to people when they say we can't afford it. Dog, we spend more than the next 12 nations on our military combined. And there are several studies that show that when you actually do have a universal healthcare system, it actually ends up saving money over a period of time. Then, on top of that, in a universal healthcare system, most of the money actually goes towards healthcare, whereas in our current system, I believe it's something like only like 55% of the money goes towards healthcare, and then the other percentage of the money goes towards like oversight or some ridiculous bullshit. Like, look it up. The health insurance industry is the mafia, and they don't want a single payer style system because that would eliminate their whole industry overnight. And what they don't tell you is you get to keep your doctor. Everything you're doing right now will stay the same. The only thing that will change is you're not footing the bill. The money's not coming directly out of your pocket. But the way our system is set up currently, we have a mafia type middleman between you and your doctor. Think about it. When has a middleman ever been good in any scenario in life? Think about it. The only thing a middleman is there for is to skim a little bit off the top. And every year we have tens of thousands of people that die because they don't have access to basic health care. Next, let's talk about inflation. Now, one of the byproducts of a war is inflation. It's just something that happens. During a war, a lot of resources get shifted to the war effort, and a lot of resources get shifted to relief. Now, the other major contributor of inflation is corporate price gouging. That is corporations just jacking up the prices of goods that have nothing to do with inflation just to take advantage of the situation, just to make record profits. Now, corporate price gouging is actually illegal, but considering the fact that most of these corporations have bought our politicians turn a blind eye to it. There's a reason all of these corporations are reporting record profits during an inflation crisis and during a war, and The thing is, these corporations have kind of put themselves in a bubble because the number one goal of a corporation is to make more and more and more money. So once you start screwing over the American people for the sake of making more money, you create a threshold that's so high that your average working class American can barely even afford to get groceries. Trust me, I'm a single 33-year-old male living in California, and I spend about $100 a week on groceries. And if you want healthier stuff, you're going to spend a lot more. Now, combating corporate price gouging is actually a lot easier than you may think, right? It's a lot easier to fix than a lot of the other issues that we're facing as a nation. But because we have legalized bribery, sleepy ass Uncle Joe is not doing anything to stop corporate price gouging. He's turned a blind eye to it. One of the more popular solutions I hear suggested is a windfall profits tax. The thing is, these corporations have donated a lot of money to the politicians. So whether it's Republican or Democrat, they don't want to stand up to the corporation for the simple fact that they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. Next, let's talk about free college. Now, anytime you hear somebody mention free college, the most common argument you hear against it is, oh, we simply can't afford it. Well, we can afford to give corporate welfare checks to these corporations that have bought our politicians. We can afford to do tax cuts that mainly benefit the rich over a specific period of time. We can absolutely afford to have some free college type of system. Now, we can still have Ivy League colleges all over the nation, but we do need to have some free form of community college. It is absolutely vital to the well-being of the nation. Remember when I said the education system is designed this way? Well, it's designed that way for a reason. In this case, knowledge quite literally is power because the more knowledge you have, the more power we have as a collective and the more informed decisions we can make as a nation. It's common sense. More people go bankrupt from student loan debt than any other debt in America. And the thing is, the politicians, they don't want you to make informed decisions. They want to keep you stupid. They want to keep us fighting amongst each other because as long as we're fighting amongst each other, we're not going to be focusing on the real issues at hand. That's what I mean when I say it's designed this way. They don't want you to further your education. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to fact check the propaganda arms of the politicians, which are the mainstream news networks like Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and most other mainstream news networks. A lot of these news networks are just propaganda arms of certain political factions, no matter what side of the aisle you stand on. They don't want you to be educated and they don't want you to make informed decisions. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to realize that the culture war is just complete bullshit designed to distract you from the real issues at hand. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to realize you're being screwed over by the people that are supposed to represent you. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to come together with like-minded individuals and rise up against corporate tyranny. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to come to the realization that the current system we have is designed to work you to death. And unless you come up with something different or the politicians start representing the American people, you're basically going to be stuck in a vicious circle of go to work, go home, eat, go to sleep, repeat the process all over again. You're part of the machine. Next, let's debunk this false stereotype that most Americans are lazy. Now, this is just a false stereotype that most Americans are lazy, and it's being pushed by certain political factions just to fool you into thinking that you're not doing enough, when in reality, a lot of you guys are working 2 jobs 6 to 7 days a week with no paid time off, no sick leave, and you're still barely able to make it through no fault of your own. And trust me, I know because I've done it. I want to really emphasize the fact that this is not your fault. If you're out there working multiple jobs and you really just can't make it, you know who you are. This isn't your fault. This is a failure at the highest levels of government, but they want to trick you into thinking that you're lazy. When in reality, these politicians are the lazy motherfuckers. These guys can't do your job. Think about it. They're calling you lazy. Can they do what you do? Trust me, I'm 33. I used to work 2 jobs 7 days a week, 6 days a week with barely any time off. There was times where I would work a 8 hour shift at my day job and I would get off at 5 o'clock and I would have about 3 hours to go home, eat something, take a shower and take a nap before I went to my next job, which started around 8 o'clock at night. And I wouldn't get off until 2 or 3 in the morning because I was working bar security, going from one security job to another security job. And at a certain point, you realize that it's all bullshit, you know? Like, all you're doing is working yourself to death, and the system is designed to work you to death and to keep you motivated enough just so you pump out another body into the system so that way they can grow up and they can do it. At my current job, the way I have it set up, I work 4 days a week and I love it because it gives me time to do stuff that I wouldn't normally do. It gives me time to create content. It gives me time to go outside and exercise. It gives me time to go out and exercise at odd hours, like at 3 in the morning, which you wouldn't normally do because, hey man, you got to go to work, so you got to be responsible, you know? And a lot of corporations hate the idea of a 4 day work week when in reality, there has been several studies that shown productivity actually goes up during a 4 day work week because people know they only have to be there for 4 days. So they're going to get as much done as possible. That way they can move on with their lives. The government needs to do more to help working class people. And a lot of times when you make the argument for free college or eliminating student loan debt, people will make the stupid argument that, oh, well, I had to struggle, so why shouldn't you have to struggle? Or my parents had to do this, so why shouldn't you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Which is just the stupidest argument ever. That's as stupid as saying you should never be happy because there's so many people that have it so much better than you. It's just a stupid argument to make. And think about it. If your parents grew up in a foreign country with really bad conditions, but you were born in America, should you have to struggle just because your parents lived through a third world nightmare? No, you should make it easier for the next generation. Think about it, guys. It's common sense. If I have to struggle through some shit in life, I'm gonna leave the ladder down for the next motherfucker to climb up. That way, when the next motherfucker finds himself in the scenario that I was faced with, he'll see that some brave fool has already been where he's gotta go and he's left the ladder down behind him to make the next man's journey that much easier. Next, let's talk about the US dollar. Pretty soon, the US dollar will no longer be the world's #1 reserve currency. And when that happens, buckle up because it's probably going to get bad. A lot of you probably can't fathom what's going to happen because we've never been in a situation like that before. What's going to happen when the money in your pocket is worth less and less? Well, When that happens, you're going to be stuck in a volatile situation where your only option may be revolution. But hopefully at that point, it's not too late. More and more countries are ditching the US dollar because they know the word of the US is not worth a damn. And the fucked up part is it's not the US people, it's the US politicians that are responsible for all this in the military industrial complex. And the fucked up part about all of this is when shit goes down, I guarantee that it's going to be the American people that primarily suffer as a result of this. And the thing is, nobody trusts us on the international stage. We've even blocked a resolution to bring criminal charges against Vladimir Putin. Not that that would have done anything, but the thing is, they don't want to bring criminal charges against Vladimir Putin because, surprise, surprise, every president we've ever had in my lifetime has been a war criminal and should be locked up for war crimes. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, they should all be locked up for war crimes. So if you bring charges against other like-minded motherfuckers like Vladimir Putin, well, guess what? You just set a precedent, and they don't want to set that precedent because they don't want to have any president prosecuted on an international stage. And do you notice in America, whenever it's a super rich motherfucker or a CEO or a politician that commits some crime, very rarely, if ever, do you see them do any sort of jail time. Whereas if you commit a crime, they're ready to throw the book at you for the most minor shit, especially if you're a poor working class motherfucker. Next, let's talk about the culture war. Now, the culture war is essentially all bullshit. The culture war is designed to distract you from the real issues at hand. So, that's why you should never raise any culture war issues over any real issues because usually politicians, corporations, companies, they will always concede on the culture war shit for the simple fact that it doesn't cost them anything. The culture war is all a distraction, and news networks, as well as a lot of your favorite content creators, they know this and they all exploit the culture war for content. And they love to use trigger words like liberal, like socialist, like communist, like woke. Listen, anytime you hear any one of these people using one of these words, you should be skeptical about what they're saying. Now, a lot of times, if it's a YouTuber or someone scrutinizing some shit, it could be legit, but sometimes it's not, and they're just using these trigger words for easy content and easy views. For example, let's take the term woke. The term woke has been distorted so much when originally all it means is alert to racial injustice. If you look up the definition in the dictionary, that's going to be the definition that you find. But the thing is, news networks as well as content creators, they like to distort the term to suit the narrative of whatever content they want to make. The news networks are the most egregious when it comes to this, mainly Fox News, and they will use woke to scapegoat anything that happens to them or anything they disagree with. Even the SVB bank collapsing that normal people did not even have access to, the way Fox News frames it is the woke banks, you know? It's always the woke banks or the woke mafia or the schools have gone woke. It's all some bullshit designed to distract you. Now, real quick, let's talk about wokeism in movies, right? Now, being woke in the movie industry is all some bullshit because the movie industry has always been alert to racial injustice issues, right? But we're just now calling it woke when in reality what it is it's forced diversity. when you see a character that has traditionally always been white or European turned into a black or Indian character or some minority, right? What it actually is forced diversity. Like, when you call it woke or wokeism, it's actually kind of a disservice to the African American community because we don't want a lot of this shit. We're not asking for these fucking motherfuckers to fucking turn Superman black. We don't want to see that shit either, right? Because that's not what we grew up watching, and it shatters the immersion, you know? It makes the movie way less immersive, and a lot of times those movies are bad anyway, so they're just trying to score some easy social justice points. So don't buy into that bullshit. Okay, guys, I'm running out of time, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to correlate this to the gaming industry a little bit. Now, let's look at any game company. A lot of times they start off making a game as a passion project. Let's say the game company is going to be the politician in this case, and the game company is supposed to be representing you as the consumer. Well, a lot of times the game company or the politician will be approached by a lobbyist or a publisher, which in this case is the corporation. What does the corporation want to do? Well, the corporation wants to give the company or the politician a bunch of money. That way they can expand on the original vision, or the corporation wants to buy the company outright. And so at this point, when the corporation buys the company outright or the politician outright, the company no longer represents you as a consumer. It represents the publisher or the corporation. Now, let's say the game that's being developed is America. Well, now that these companies represent the corporations and the publisher, they are forced to throw a bunch of shitty microtransactions in it and pay to win scenarios that really affect the quality of life of the game. And if the game does not sell well, what usually happens? Well, the company can get shut down or absorbed into the publisher's other ventures, and the game can be completely shut down and it's game over permanently. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow the game to be shut down. This is Remo Yes Man, signing out. Peace.